Okay, so let's just share the page. We're holding. We're holding on. Here we go. Share the page. We're holding on in Preke Chelek, 66b. Okay. So we're holding over Amar Rava. We're middle of the story of we're middle of the Gemorah's description of the destruction of the first temple by the two main characters are Nebuchadnezzar and Nebuzaradan, who is the general. Nebuchadnezzar, of course, is the king of Babylon. Both of them were part of the army of Sancheriv in Sancheriv, Assyria's attempt to attack and destroy Jerusalem that ended with the armies of Assyria being destroyed by the angel. So here, Rava says like this. Amar Rava, Rava says, continuation of how the destruction went about. That he says, Hayariel, says Te'in, it says Te'in, Te'in Tlos Meya Kud Noisa Narga de Parzala, the Shalit de Parzala, the Shadule Nebuchadnezzar Nebuzaradan. So Rava says that Nebuchadnezzar said to send to Nebuzaradan 300 mules laden with iron axes that cut iron. So the special axes that would cut the iron gates of Jerusalem to break into the gate, so they could break into the city. Kulu balasinu, all of them got broken. They got the word blia really got swallowed up. They broke. They couldn't break into the gates. Chadasha Yerushalayim, in one of the gates of Jerusalem. Shnemar, and there's a verse that quotes this, that it says, "Pitucha yachad bakashil v'chelapois yaloimoin." So he quotes Tehillim that says, "And now they pound its carved work together with hatchets and with hammers, and they couldn't get in." Boy lemedar, he was going to go back. He had 300 special axes to break into the gates, and 299 of them broke. Amar mistafreina deloy lavid bi ki hechid lavid b'Sancheriv. So again, he was part of the army of Sancheriv. So he says, better I should leave now, so it doesn't happen to me what happened to Sancheriv. Meaning Sancheriv, he was there when the city got when the army of Sancheriv was destroyed by the angel. So just Rashi says, Tain Tlas Mea Kudinaisa Masui Shleish Meis Pardus. He had 300 mules carrying these axes. Narga de Pazla Patish Basil is a hammer of iron. The Shalit de Parzla Barzla Chodir Lakoitis Basil Acher. It's a kind of hammer that could break other iron. So it's an iron breaking hammer that should be able to break. The idea was to break through the gates of Jerusalem. It wasn't that the door swallowed up the axes. That would be a miracle. Shibram, they broke. When they try to break the gate, the axes broke. So he says, that they used all of the axes on one door, on one gate, and none of them were able to break the gate. So he wants to leave, right? So he wants to leave, says it's not going well, and we're going to learn. We're kind of getting ahead of the story, but we're going to learn that it wasn't like either Nebuchadnezzar or Nebuzaradan wanted to attack Jerusalem in the first place. They were kind of convinced. They were told by other nations that this is a good time, so they weren't so confident in the first place, and now he says he can't get in. So he doesn't want to be destroyed like what happened to Sancheriv. So it says, Nafka Kolav Amar, so he heard a voice from heaven, so to say, that says, Shavar Bar Shavar, which means leaper, the son of leaper. We'll see in a second, Rashi explains what that means. But Nebuzaradan, Shavar, Demata, Zimna, he says, so you're a leaper. He says, the time has come, the Makdisha Charev, that the temple has to be destroyed, Ve'chala Miklei, and the sanctuary of the temple has to be burnt down. Pash le chad narga. So he took one of the last remaining axes. Asamachia bekoifa v'iftach. So he went and struck the gate with the dull end. We'll see why he used the dull end. and it opened. So he didn't even use the other side, the wood side, and he didn't even use the metal side, showing it means, like most of the Mefarshim say, to show that it was a miracle, that it wasn't his doing. Svach, like eitz kardumois, that he became known as the wielder of the axes upward in a thicket of trees. So it was the wood part of it, not the metal part of it. The Rashi says, what's it mean, shaver bar shaver, leaper of leaper, doilig bar doilig, the person who jumps, the son of the jumper, kum v'chavish Yerushalayim, go and conquer Jerusalem. So that was the voice, I guess, an inner voice that he heard. And the Nebuzaradan Ka'amar, that Nebuzaradan should go jump in and conquer the city. Lashon Achar, another opinion is shaver bar shaver, medalig bar medalig, kafsa pamachasim sancheir v'achshav pam shniya. You once jumped with Sancheiriv to be part of that army. Okay, it didn't work for you, but now you're here a second time. Hi, Danny. So he says, "Bekufa magav hapatish v'mechudei k'may kufa demachta." So he's saying that he struck it with the dull part of the hammer and not with the metal part, again indicating that it wasn't his doing. It was the miracle of Hashem that's the most commentaries say, the Ad Ramah, the Ivitz, that to show that it wasn't his doing, but it was a miracle that he was able to get him. It means if it wasn't for God, he never would have conquered the city. Is Yedei Kemevi Lamaila Tfila Hu Yedei Lefanecha Eisei Svach Eitz Kardumis Sheshaver Boy Eitz Yerushalayim Kilo Hevi Lamaila B'Kisei Kavod. So it says that, what does it mean? That David HaMelech was praying. It's a tefillah. It was a prayer that, so to say, that the Kisei Kavod, the cheer of God, meaning God should recognize the destruction that's happening to his temple. David was talking about that. Just with a piece of wood, they were able to break into Jerusalem to destroy the temple. Basically, unlike in the story of Sancheiriv, it was an opportune time now, or not opportune time. It was the time, so to say, for Hashem that he wanted to destroy the temple. The Gaonim say, Rabbi Shreinzot says that leap, son of leaper, that he should leap into it. So he quotes over the Yavitz. It says, some understood that the reference to the wooden handle of the axe, based on that interpretation, that verse could be well understood the meaning. He became known as the welder of the wood of an axe. So he did the wood, he didn't hit it with the metal. Okay. So he breaks into the city. This was the entry that he was able to go into the city of Jerusalem, and because he's able to go into the city of Jerusalem, he's able to destroy Jerusalem and then eventually destroy the temple. He killed everything until he reached the Heichel, the sanctuary of the temple, meaning the gate is in the beginning of the city. And he burnt it. He started a fire. So the Heichel was lifted up. There's difference of opinions. What does it mean that Gavei Heichale, that the Heichel was lifted up, or he was lifted up? Okay, I missed out a few of the commentaries here. Hey Shaki, on page 66, 66.2, we're learning about the destruction of the first temple by Nebuzaradan. So he says, so he killed and destroyed until he reached the Heichel. He lit a fire. And the Heichel was lifted up, or you could say he was lifted up. I'm trying to bring a few of the commentaries here. The Yad Ramah says that the angels lifted him up, so he should be lifted up for the fact that he destroyed the temple. So it says, and the Shnemar, as it says, Gas Dorach Hashem Lebsulas Bas Yehuda. So he quotes the verse that says the Lord has trodden the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as in a wine press. So it's an idea of lifting up. So he says like this. So he says, Nafka Baskala voice went out and said, V'amrlein said to Nebuzaradan, who's now burning the temple, Ama Ketila Katalta, that you destroyed a dead people, meaning to say, don't take credit that you destroyed the Jewish people. They were already destined to die. So it's not your doing, basically. And Heichala Kalya Kales, a burnt sanctuary you burnt. Kimcha techina tchinas. You didn't. It's not like you grinded the wheat and made flour. You were grinding flour and made flour. Basically, don't take any credit for anything that you've done in the destruction. It was God's will for whatever reason that it was time for the sins, or whatever reason it was for God decided to destroy the temple. And He chose you to do it, but don't. It's not your strong doing. Like we learned last time, Sanheriv was much stronger than Nebuchadnezzar's army, but it wasn't the time for Jerusalem to be destroyed. He quotes a verse that says, we see that it says, using the mill to grind flour, not to grind wheat. So this is a pasuk Yeshaya Navi saying to the Jewish people that says, take the millstone and grind flour and cover your locks, tuck up the train and uncover the legs, pass over the rivers, meaning to say, notwithstanding of the fact that it wasn't that he destroyed you, but it's time for you to go to exile. So get your clothes, pick up your pants, get ready to walk through the river, cross the river. You have to go into exile. It doesn't say that he grinded wheat; he grinded flour. So to mean to say is that he wasn't. It's a voice that tells Nebuzaradan that you didn't accomplish this. Okay. Just do the Rashi quickly. It says, so Rashi learns differently than the others. Others say that the Heichel was lifted up. It says he wanted to go up to heaven. He was feeling very egotistic, right? Similar to that was Titus when he destroyed the second temple, right? He stabbed the Proches and blood came out. He also felt like he was able to destroy God forbid. Is darke bei min shemayim veshpilu. So it says, oh, hold on a second. I skipped something over here. Sorry, they pushed him down. He wanted to go up and they pushed him down. So darke bei min shemayim veshpilu, they put him lower. Zacha daita misgal shahay matzliach. He felt very, very egotistic that he was successful. So they told him, Ama katila shekfar nigzar lehem kach. You killed a dead people. It was already destined that they should be destroyed. V'tachni kemcha. You didn't grind wheat to turn to flour. It was already flour. It was already done. The deed was done. It says, the locks of the hair. So to get them ready. Okay, also ideas to get yourself ready to go crossing the river. So he explains the pasuk. Rashi says, this is a verse that God is speaking through Yeshaya Navi to the Jewish people. You're ready like flour. And therefore, means get yourself ready and go into the exile. So he doesn't, the Jewish people have to know it was decided, it wasn't Nebuzaradan that destroyed the temple, it was God that destroyed the temple, and you have to go into Galus. He quotes over here, the sanctuary rose. So some say the sanctuary was raised and then lowered to show Nebuzaradan that all the destruction took place only through the will of the power of God, or that he wanted to go up and God put him down. Okay, different opinions. Now, so this is now the famous story of the blood of Zacharya. So he comes to the temple, and okay, that's a quick reminder. Zacharya was the prophet who prophesied, one of the prophets that prophesied about the destruction of the first temple, asking the Jewish people to do tshuva, to repent, and to go back to serving Hashem, and they didn't. And he said the prophecy of the destruction, and he was stoned in the temple, and he was killed. A quick story, the famous story. The Kazhin Samagid was a very holy Rebbe in the times of the Alter Rebbe. He said that he once a girl was possessed with a dibuk. So she came to this person. The parents brought this young girl to the Kazhin Samagid, and the dibuk means when a person is possessed by a spirit. So he was speaking to the spirit, and he said, "Who are you?" Because I'm the person who threw the first stone at Zechariah. He threw the first stone to stone Zechariah, and his punished was that all the way in times of the Kazhin Samagid, we're talking about over 2,000 years, destruction of the first temple, he's a wandering spirit that he doesn't find any rest. So they try to find hosts, so they go into people or to animals. So he went into this young girl. So he said, what is So he says, why did you stone him? So he said, because the law is, like we've learned, that if you don't say a prophecy, so the prophecy can happen, but you die because you don't listen to God. Like Jonah didn't want to go say the prophecy about Nineveh. So he said, I told Zacharya, you better not say the prophecy of the destruction of the temple and take upon yourself the consequences than to say a prophecy that would cause the destruction. But either way, the story ends that Kajin Samagid found him a tikkun and he was able to be able to find his place in heaven. Okay, that's a side story. So Chazadamid is Zechariah. So now Nebuzaradan, so what happened was they killed Zechariah, which happened many years before, a good few years before, over a dozen years before. And Zechariah, now his blood never calmed down. His blood was constantly boiling as an anger because he was both a prophet and a Navi. Both a prophet and a Kohen. Being both a prophet and a Kohen, he was a very holy person. And by them stoning him, his blood would not relax. So the Gemorah is just saying, matter of fact, as if we know that the blood was there. Chazidamid is Zacharya. So now Nebuzaradan comes and he sees there's this blood on the floor that won't be removed of the boiling blood of Zechariah. The avakarasach that was boiling. Amaluhu maihai. So Nebuzaradan asked the people, what is this blood that's sitting here on the floor? Amrulay, so they didn't want to tell him the story. Amrulay dam zvachim hu di ishtafech. It's blood from a sacrifice. Amrlehu, so he said to them, Aisiv anti midamu. Give me a sacrifice, give me the animal, similar animal. I'm going to slaughter it. I want to see if it's the same type of blood. Kasi damu. He slaughtered it, and it wasn't the same blood. So he realized they're not telling him the truth. Amrlehu, he said to them, Galilee, tell me the truth, whose blood this is. If you don't tell me the truth, is sarekna l'chul l'b'sarachayu b'masreke de parzla. If you don't reveal who this is, I will comb your flesh with iron comb. It was a kind of iron combs that, like the Romans did, unfortunately, later in the second temple to Rabbi Akiva. There's special combs that we used for the sheep. They comb wool, very strong metal combs, iron combs, and obviously he threatened that he would comb their flesh with such a comb if they would not reveal to him the truth about whose blood was, what's the story with this blood that's boiling on the temple floor. So Rashi just says, he says, bring me a sacrifice, a similar animal. I want to see if it's the same kind of blood. He slaughtered animals, and the blood wasn't the same. Here he says, Rabbi Steinsaltz brings down that the iron wool combs were utilized by the Romans, and also it's not the Romans. This is the Babylonians as implements of torture to tear the victim's flesh. Okay, so now let's just read a bit about the blood of Zechariah. It says Chazadamid is Zechariah. This appears to be based upon the prophecy of Yecheskel with regard to Jerusalem. It says, for its blood is in its midst. It is set upon the bare rock, which means the rock of the temple floor. It poured it not upon the ground to cover it with dust, that it might cause fury to come up. The vengeance may be taken. I have set her blood upon the bare rock, that it should not be covered. So this is a verse of Yecheskel. So these verses allude to the slaying of the prophet upon the stones of the temple, and that his blood was not covered until his death was avenged. So God wanted to avenge, Zechariah wanted to avenge his blood, and therefore the blood would not be able to be covered over. Okay, so he said like this, Amrlei, the priest said to Nebuzaradan that they told him the truth. Hi Kohen v'Navihu, this person was, the blood of the person was a person who was both a priest and a prophet. The Inabe Lehul Yisrael b'Churbanah, that prophesied about the destruction of the temple. Yishlayim ukatlu, and they killed him, they stoned him. Amrluhu, so he said, Nebuzaradan said back to the people, to the Kohanim, Ana mifai sanalei, I'm going to calm him down by force. I see Rabbanan, he took all the rabbis, the great sages of the time, and katle ivale, he slaughtered all the rabbis on the blood of Zechariah. But Zechariah wouldn't calm down. I see Dartike Devarav, he brought the children who study in yeshiva. Dartike is the children, the Beirav of the yeshiva. Katle Velayo, he slaughtered the children on top of the blood of Zechariah V'leinach, and he didn't calm down. I see Preke Kahuna, he took the young priests He slaughtered the young priest on the blood of Zacharya, and Zechariah wouldn't calm down. Adi katel ilavai tishin va'arba riba v'lainach, until he killed 94 10,000, which means 940,000 people, and he still would not calm down. He killed close to 1 million people on the blood of Zechariah. Karv legabe Amar, so he approached the blood of Zechariah and he said, this is Nebuzaradan said, again, like we've been learning this whole time, these are interesting people, they believe, yet they destroy. Amar, he said, Zechariah, he called him by his name, Zechariah the prophet. Taivim shbehem ibadatim, I killed the best of them already. He killed the rabbis, he killed the children, he killed the priests, killed 960,000 people. So he says, you want me to kill everyone? I'll kill everyone on your blood if you don't calm down. Miyad nach, the blood stopped boiling. That's a story. But here's the story of how this whole story affected Nebuzaradan himself. Here, tshuva b'daita, he started to think about repentance. Amr, he said like this, all these people that he killed, the 960,000 people he killed because of, as a vengeance for one priest that was killed. He said, this person, meaning he's referring to himself in the third, what's going to happen to me? I killed so many people. Imagine with my vengeance, what's going to happen to me? Arak, he left, he deserted his job. Shadar Prutisa Levesa, he dispatched a will to his family. He basically left everything, his whole life. He's in the middle of destroying Jerusalem. He kills 960,000 people on the blood of Zechariah. Zacharya, and he converted. So now, what happens to Nebuzaradan? Hey, Bruce, remember the story 96:2. We're holding the story of Nebuzaradan destroying the temple and how he was killing people on the blood of Zechariah. But what happened to him at the end? He ends up converting to Judaism. He realized that if for killing Zechariah, this was the punishment, that 960,000 people had to die, so what's going to happen to him? So he converted, he left everything his whole life, and he went to convert for Judaism. It doesn't say where he went, but we're going to learn a bit about him in a second. So Partis he sent a will to his family. Basically, he cut himself off from everything. He left the army, he left his family, he ran away and converted. Nebuzaradan. Rashi says that Nebuzaradan himself converted to Judaism. Okay, now the Gemorah is going to tell us about what happened to certain converts in history. Who were the converts? The Gemorah says, Taner Rabbanan, the rabbis learned. Naaman. Everyone knows Naaman. Naaman is in the story of Elisha. The early years he's the student of Elijah the prophet. In the early years of the kingdom of Israel, or mid-years of the kingdom of Israel, in the times of Achav, Naaman was the general that was sent down with leprosy to be healed. And he's healed by the prophet Elisha. He goes into the waters of the Jordan and he gets healed from his leprosy. What happens to Naaman? So two things. One is he brought tons of money as a gift to Elisha, and the money Elisha would not take any payment for it, but his attendant, his Gabbai, Gehazi, took the money, took the gold. He lied. He said that Elisha wanted the money at the end, and he got all the leprosy. That's why we have the Haftarah about the Abra Mitzrayim. The 4 lepers are Gehazi and his 3 sons that took the leprosy of Naaman. But what happened to Naaman? Naaman he's this great warrior that comes down from the north, and I think it's Assyria, right? And he gets healed from his leprosy. So how does that affect him? So the Gemara says that Naaman didn't convert, but he becomes a ger toishav. A ger toishav is a person who accepts upon himself not to serve idols anymore. The ger toishav was in the times of this temple times when a Gentile wanted to live amongst the Jews, but wasn't ready to convert to Judaism, but wanted to take upon themselves certain rules, certain would not serve idols, etc. So then he's allowed to live amongst the Jewish people, and there's laws that are connected to the ger toishav. We have many times the Torah talks about the ger toishav. So Naaman becomes a ger toishav. He stops serving idols, which is a big deal for those days. But what happens? The Gemara says Nebuzaradan. What happened to the general that we just learned about that destroyed Jerusalem, killed 960 people just on the blood of Zechariah? Ger Tzedek. He wasn't just a ger toishav. He became a ger Tzedek. he converted to Judaism. And it says in Bnei Banov, and also we learned also that from the grandchildren of Sisra. Sisra again we learned last week. Sisra was the general that fought the Jewish people in times of the judges. Lamdu Torah b'Yerushalayim. They ended up becoming scholars and teaching Torah in Jerusalem. We'll see in a second why all these people's children become so great. There's an idea here. Bnei Banov shel Sancheriv himself, right? What happens at the end of Sancheriv? We learned last week his sons kill him. What happened afterwards? Eventually, someone converted to Judaism. Limdu Torah b'Rambim. The children of Sancheriv taught Torah in public, not just in Jerusalem. Who were these great teachers who were the descendants of Sancheriv? Shemai v'Avtalyon, the teachers of Hillel. They're part of the tradition of Torah. So the children of Sancheriv, the Bnei Banav, the grandchildren of Sancheriv, also become converts, righteous converts and teachers of Torah. Rashi says, what is the definition of a ger toishav? Shlei love shar mitzvahs. It doesn't become a full-fledged Jew, so to say. But he will not serve idols. Rabbi Steinsaltz is going to give us a little more information about the ger toishav. Rabbi Steinsaltz says the status is bestowed upon a Gentile who seeks to gain permanent residence status in Eretz Yisrael. So we have to assume that Naaman maybe also left his job as the head of the army of the king over there. I forget the king's name. In order to do so, he is required to commit himself to fulfill certain mitzvahs. These are several opinions with regard. There are several opinions with regard to the mitzvahs included in that commitment. Some authorities hold that the sole requirement is that the ger toshav shun idol worship. The only thing he has to do is idol worship. Others hold that in order to be granted that status, he must commit to observe virtually all the prohibitions other than those relating to consumption of forbidden food. I mean, he doesn't have to keep kosher. Most hold that he must commit to the observance of the 7 noahide mitzvahs. So he's basically like, according to the middle ground, he'd be like a person who keeps the 7 noahide mitzvahs, not just the mitzvah of idol worship. It says over here, Mibnei Banav shel Sisra, who, this is something I didn't know. Who are the descendants of Sisra that taught Torah in Yerushalayim? It's according to his one tradition, Rabbi Kiva was a descendant of Sisra. We know Rabbi Kiva was a child of a convert. Shemai v'Avtalyon. Okay, so Shemai v'Avtalyon is the fourth pair of rabbinic sages listed in the Tractate Avot, served as leaders of the Sanhedrin during the region of Herod the Great during the 1st century BCE, and are among the earliest Tanoim cited in the Mishnah. They were converts and descendants of converts, and there is a tradition that their lineage traces back to Sancheriv. The Gemorah says that. King of Assyria, few lachat are cited in their names in the Talmud. Their ethical statements include a caution to avoid political engagement, perhaps in a reaction to the political turmoil extended during the later years of the Second Temple period. There is a tradition that they are buried in the village of Gush Halav. Gush Halav, Halav. I'm not sure where that is. Now called Jish in the Upper Galilee. Okay. So the Gemara says, so the children, Aaron, did you want to ask something before? Okay.
I was going to say that you answered my question. I was asking if they were like Noahides, and you said, yeah, they are.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So now it continues. It says, in Bnei Banav shel Haman. Again, so we're talking about a long list of tyrants, right? Sisra was a tyrant, and Sancheriv wanted to destroy the Jewish people. Nebuzaradan destroyed the temple. So let's continue on the list of people that end up having great children. That's what we learned. If you remember last week, we learned the verse that says that if you're that Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says, or they say others say that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that if you're a descendant of someone, don't take so much credit, because now we see there's some descendants of wicked people. The grandchildren of Haman. Haman is the great tyrant of the Jewish people in the times of the Megillah of Purim. Lamdu Torah b'Bnei Brak. They studied Torah in Bnei Brak. So now the question is, we don't know who Oisei Rasha is. So also the descendants of this wicked person, so Hashem wanted to also bring them under the wings of the Shechina. Amar Malchei Sharas of Nekadosh Baruch Hu. The angel said to God, Ribono Shel Olam, God, Master of the world, Misha Hechav Es Beischa. The one who destroys your house, the temple, destroyed you, who burnt down your sanctuary, you're going to accept that person as a convert? So who is that person? So seemingly, some people say we're talking about Nebuzaradan, but it can't be Nebuzaradan because we just said he did convert. So others say that Nebuchadnezzar's children also wanted to convert, and that far God didn't go. He wouldn't let Nebuchadnezzar's children convert. You have to remember, Sisera didn't end up doing anything. Sanhedrin didn't end up doing anything. Haman didn't end up doing anything. These people wanted to do things. Sanhedrin, Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple. I mean, it's not just that he wanted to do things; he actually did things. Nebuzaradan, the question, that's why some people learn that's actually talking about Nebuzaradan himself, although the Gemorah says that he converted. It could be meant that he wouldn't have any children that would be part of the Torah's chain of Torah. So, Hani Dechsivi quotes a pasuk that says, the verse that says, we have healed Babylonia, but she is not healed. Rapinu as Bavel v'lo nirpasa, means they didn't get a full healing because he wouldn't accept them for converts. Ula Amar, so Ula says Nebuchadnezzar, that the verse is talking about Nebuchadnezzar himself. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachmania Eimer Elu Naharis Bavel. So when it talks about the healing, it's not talking about people. It's talking about the rivers of Bavel were not drinking water, so they were punished. The rivers of Bavel were punished because they of the destruction of the temple. The Targuma. And what does this mean? That the Tznayosa de Bavelei, the bitter salt waters of the Bavel. So Rashi learns Shal Oisei Rasha Nebuchadnezzar. That we're not talking about Nebuzaradan, we're talking about Nebuchadnezzar. That Nebuchadnezzar was accepted as a convert. We're not talking about Nebuzaradan. God wanted that Nebuchadnezzar's children should be able to come, so to say, healed and become part of the Jewish people. But the angels protested that idea. Who is it? Ula. Shmuel Bar Nachmani says that it's not talking about Nebuchadnezzar, but it's talking about the rivers of Bavel that are not good to drink. And it says, it says that the decal trees, the palm trees, are not good over there because they're taking water which is bad from the rivers. Lashon Acher, another opinion is that to nunaisa the bavel, the kolim roim shal naharis bavel she'ein noisim peiros. They also means that they didn't have fruit. The trees didn't have fruit. Vishamayim roimein, because the waters were bad. The gadol peiros, it says in the Gemara Saita. Amrei kushtahu damriso hanit tunaisa the bavel mishesh mei breishis isnu v'nahard shetachas hanit tunususe mei marim ninu. So the Gemara Saita says that I guess the palm trees that are by Bavel, that are in the river, the Euphrates River, I guess, don't grow properly because of the bitter waters of the river. Okay, let's continue. So we got past the destruction. Nebuzaradan destroys. He gets all these axes and gets in on the last axe. He feels egotistic. He goes all the way in. He kills tons of people. He deals with Zacharya blood, and then he repents and becomes a Baal Tshuva. I just want to say he quotes over here a very holy sefer from the Netzach Yisrael. I believe it's the Moralmi Prague. He asked the question, why can't they just be regular people? Why do you have these great tyrants who either wanted to or destroyed the Jewish people, did horrible things and wanted to do horrible things to the Jewish people, and not that their children become converts, but they become great converts. They become people that are teaching Torah in Jerusalem. They become Shmai, Vaftali, and Rabbi Kiva. They're becoming great sages. Why do they merit to have such great descendants? So the Moralmi Prague teaches us. It's kind of a Hasidic idea. The Moralmi Prague was the teachings of the Holy Moral, that he says is that anything in negativity has to have a source in kedusha. Someone who's a great tyrant in the world means like Esav, right? We learn in Chassidus the power of Esav is because he comes from a very high source. You can't just be a nobody can't just become a tyrant. A tyrant has to have some sort of root in something very holy that it's siphoning off tremendous energy. Otherwise, where do you get all this energy to be a destroyer of people? So you're taking from a root of a very high place, but there's a corruption in that energy. So when they become converts, they go back to the roots of that energy, and what happens? They have great children. They have Rabbi Kiva, they have Reb Meir, they have Uncle Sager who comes from Esav. They have Shmai Vavtalim that comes from Sancheriv. So it's because that they come from such great, they have access to such great holiness, but which the parents or the fathers have corrupted it. Or in Nebuzaradan's case, he himself became a convert. But when they change, they become great people of holiness. Okay, that's just that's a word from the Moralmi Prague. Amr Ula says now we're going to get back to who were the instigators? Who were the people behind instigating Nebuchadnezzar to go destroy Jerusalem? You always have supporters today, right? All the people protesting, saying, go destroy the Jewish people. So who are the people that were cheering on Bavel? So it says Amr Ula. Ula says Ammon and Moav, our good old enemies, friends. Ammon that Shivavei Vishay Yerushalayim Havu, that they were Ammon and Moav were bad neighbors of Jerusalem, right? There are enemies, meaning of Eretz Yisrael. Given the Shaminu, the Nevi'e, the Kamisnabi, the Churban of Yerushalayim, they were kind of holding their finger on the pulse of what's going on. As soon as they hear that the Jewish prophets are prophesying about the destruction of Jerusalem, Shalchel Nebuchadnezzar, they send the message to Nebuchadnezzar, who seemingly was minding his own business in Bavel. Paik V'sa, what did he send him? That emerge and come to Jerusalem, destroy it. Basically, they said, there's prophets that prophesize. Amr, so he said back to them, I'm afraid I don't want to happen to me what happened to my predecessors, meaning Sancheriv, right? He was there. He was part of that army. He's like, I'm done with Jerusalem. I don't need to go back to try to destroy Jerusalem. Rashi says, leave your place, go to Eretz Yisrael and conquer it. So he says he's scared. So they send him back in a coded message. They send him back, meaning the people of Ammon. They said, there's no one in the house. Ish was referring to God. Like it says, Hashem Ish Machama. He left. God left from a distance. He's no longer protecting Jerusalem like he did in the time of Sancheriv. What are we talking about? We're talking about God. God is the man of war. So he sends back. He's close by. All they have to do is he could come back and protect the Jewish people. They say, he went far. That's why he says in the pasuk, he went far. So he sends back. They have righteous people. The boy Rachmim isolate. The righteous tzaddikim are going to try to get God's compassion, and God's going to return to the Jewish people. So he says, Rashi says, when their situation gets bad, God is going to come back to protect the Jewish people. We learn from the pasuk that they said that he's rachaik, means that he sent, that he's close. Shalchulei, so they sent to Nebuchadnezzar that Sror HaKesef Lakach Biyadei. He's taken the gold, the silver with him. And a Kesef al Tzadikim, meaning saying there's no Tzadikim left, there's no righteous people left in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim. God forbid. Shenemer, like it says, Ve'ekreha li b'chamisha aser kasev v'chaymer sa'irim v'lesach sa'irim. So he says basically, I have brought, so that I brought her to me for 15 pieces of kesef, and for a core of barley and a half a core of barley. A core is 30, and half a core is 15. So the 45 tzaddikim were taken. It says the idea is that God is acquiring the congregation of Israel due to the presence. Has acquired the congregation of Israel due to the presence of the righteous people among them. Amnon and Moav sent a message to Nebuchadnezzar that God had already taken the righteous and they no longer offered protection. So there's no more protection from the tzaddikim. Rashi says also, the idea of 15 symbolizes the 15th of Nisan, which is the day of Pesach. He also, Rashi just makes the cheshbon, Kesef v'chaymer sa'irim v'lesach sa'irim, schus tzaddikim shenikru Kesef, the tzaddikim are called the righteous. Chaymer sa'irim is shleishim se'in. There's 30 se'in, The lesach is chamisha asar sin, which is a measurement. So a 30 measurement and a 15 is together 45. So there's a tradition that there's 45, even though we have a tradition of 36. But the Gemara talks about a tradition of 45 righteous people that hold the world, like it says in the Gemara Chulin. The Rashi says sometimes there's 30 in Chutz Laaretz and 15 in Eretz Yisrael. And sometimes Tesvav Khan is 15 in Chutz Laaretz and 30 in Eretz Yisrael. So it talks about over there how the tzaddikim are referred to silver, and it says the silver is no longer there. That means the 45 righteous people, either 15 in Eretz Yisrael, 30 in Chutz Laaretz, or vice versa, they are not around anymore to protect the Jewish people. So therefore, there's an opportunity for destroying the temple. Let's go a little further. So Shalach Lahu, he sent back to them Hadri Rashi B'Shuva. Even though they're wicked and there's no more tzaddikim, but what about if the wicked do tshuva, they repent? Then they're going to ask for compassion, and Ma'asli is going to protect them. So they said back, it's too late. There's already been a time set for the destruction, like it says, like it says, like we said, the day of the holiday, so it's a set day that God's going to come to his house, so to say, to destroy it. So he sent back Sisvahu. It's he didn't. You see from here, Nebuchadnezzar did not want to destroy the temple. Pasha, these badgers were badgering him to come destroy the temple. They were arguing with him every argument to come destroy the temple. Shachlahu, he sends back Sisvahu. It's the fall and the winter. I don't want to come. It's raining. It's snowing. I don't want to. It's a schlep, right? Doesn't want to schlep in the snow and the rain to destroy Jerusalem. Like Rashi says, what does it mean that there's a time set? Not a time set for the destruction, a time set for the new redemption, meaning to say that there's no early redemption. You have 70 years. We know that the nations knew about the 70-year deadline. They didn't want to go for the sheleg, the snow, the rain. So they sent back them. They wouldn't give up. They're mamish, like they call a nudge. They were nudging him to come destroy Jerusalem. So shalach lahu, they sent him back. Ta ashina de turda. So you could go come in the peak of the mountains, kind of be protected from the puddles. Shema shulchu kar moishel eretz misela midbara el har basiyin. He quotes a pasuk: send the lamb to the ruler of the land from the peaks of the wilderness to the mount of the daughter of Zion. So through the tops of the mountains, they could walk in a way to avoid the bother of the snow and the rain. Shlach lahu, so he sent back. Yasina Leslie duchsa the asvenebe. It's raining. When I come there, it's going to be. Remember, when did he siege Jerusalem? The 10th of Teves. That's the winter. So he sends back. He says that where am I going to stay when I'm in Jerusalem? Right? There's no. Where am I going to camp around the city and then what? Shachle. So he says they sent him back. Shlachule kvares shelahem u'ulim mipalteiroin shelacha. Their burial places are better than your palaces. The Jewish people buried in beautiful caves in the Jerusalem caves, and therefore you could go into their grave sites and find shelter there. Like it says, Be'esahi num Hashem yotzis atmis malchi Yehuda, and that's why it says he cleared out all the bones of the kings of Judah, of its atmis sarav and the ministers, its atmis koyanim and the koyanim, its atmis hanavim and the bones of the prophets, its atmis Yerushalayim and the bones of all the people who lived in Jerusalem, mikivreim from their burial places, ushtachim l'shemesh l'reach, and put them out in the sun, meaning took them out of their place, and they went into these places of the burial places. That's where the army found shelter. L'chol tzva Hashem ahevus v'asher avodum v'asher holchu achreim. That it says he put them out to the moon, to the sun and the moon, and all the hosts of heaven, whom they have loved and whom they have served and whom they have walked. So basically, Nebuchadnezzar came and listened to them, and he came and destroyed the temple. We'll just stop. I think we're going to stop over here. We're going to stop, just do the Rashis, and just do the next piece. I want to go into a little bit of the next piece. So he says, okay, Rashi is saying basically, he goes, he's not going to have lo yili makom savir Yerushalayim shnuch lani v'chai leisha v'makom mechusa mipnei gsham. He was said, there's going to be no shelter around Jerusalem. So he says, Kivrem Shei Yisrael ma'oris shalahen savir Yerushalayim ubahen ata v'chai leisecha yechel neishav. They bury in these great, huge, beautiful caves in Jerusalem, and clear out the caves, and you'll have where to find shelter. So it says, Yesius atzis mach Yehuda shasidim lahashlich min hakvarim. There's a prophecy that says that he's going to throw out the bones of the kings of Jerusalem. Here he says it doesn't mean to walk on the peak. Some explain that, I think I've seen that in other places. Yeah, the Ramah says that this phrase means that one should walk under the rocks that jut out of the mountains and to protect them from the rain and the snow. Okay, just this one little piece over here. We want to learn a bit about Mashiach. We just learned about the destruction. Let's learn about the redemption. Amalei Reb Nachman Rabbi Yitzchak. Reb Nachman said to Rabbi Yitzchak, Mi shamas lacha, mi shamia lach emes asi bar niflei. Do you know when bar niflei, the person who falls, is going to come? Meaning he asked him, when is Mashiach going to come? Amalei man bar niflei. Who's bar niflei? Amalei Mashiach. I'm talking about Mashiach. He says, Mashiach bar niflei karisle. You call him bar niflei? Amalei in dechsib b'yemahu. It says on that day that okay, you guys again are missing a little part. So sorry, that is the last page. That is the last part of the Gemorah. Let's just go a little further. So it says, I'm going to lift up in the day of Mashiach. I'm going to lift up the fallen house of David. So we know that Mashiach is talking about Nafel, someone who falls. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Rashi just says the reason why we're talking about the Mashiach now, it says because we were talking about the fact that there was no tzaddikim, and that's why there's the destruction. We want to learn about when Mashiach is going to come. So he says, so this is the tradition we have from Rabbi Yochanan. The generation that the son of David is going to come, meaning this Mashiach. There will be very few scholars of Torah. The Torah scholars will decrease, and the rest of the people, their eyes fail with sorrow and grief, and troubles increase. It's not going to be a good time. There's going to be all kind of new horrible decrees. We've lived through all that already. Before the first one leaves, the second decree is already going to follow in its footsteps. Why do we call Mashiach the son of fallers? Because he's a descendant of David, and it says David fell. We're going to have lift up David who fell, means that Mashiach is the son of fallers. So until the first tragedy doesn't finish, the second one comes. Like it says, it's not going to exit and until the next one comes ready. And just do the next piece. Tana Rabbanim, we learned, the rabbis have learned, Shavua, the sabbatical year. Shavua can mean a week, or Shavua can also mean a sabbatical year. Sabbatical means 6 years, and then the 7th year is sabbatical. So the 7-year period, the Mashiach is Shaben David, Mashiach comes. So it says Shana Rishayna, the first year of that sabbatical, Miskayim Mikrazeh. It's going to be the verse that says, Vehim Tarti al Ir Echas, Val Ir Achas Layamtir. There's going to be, so to say, rain for one city and another city not. Means some people are going to have, some people are not going to have. Shnia, the second year of that sabbatical, Chitzei Ra'av Mishtalchelim. It's going to be that in the second year period, arrows of famine will be shot. Chitzei is arrows of famine will be shot. It will be not going to be such good years financially. Shlish is the third year of that sabbatical, Rav Gadol. There's going to be a tremendous hunger. Meisim Anashim, and the people are going to die from the hunger. V'nashim, and the women, v'taf, and children. Chasidim v'anshemaisa v'toyer. The best people are going to die from the famine of the third year of the sabbatical before Mashiach comes. V'toyer mishtakachas milamdeh, and people are going to forget their studying of Torah. We're going to learn, I think, soon about Reb Shimon Bar Yochai in next class, what he says about that. The Revi is the 4th year. Seiva ve'ene seiva. There's going to be satisfaction and not satisfaction, because there's going to be all these weird kind of Chamishi seiva gadol. The 5th year, there's going to be a tremendous amount of food. Everyone's going to eat and be happy. People can start learning again. B'shishis, in the 6th year, koilis, we're going to hear the sounds of the shofar. B'shvius, and in the 7th year, Mechamis is going to be a year of fighting. Matzah Shvius, on the year after the sabbatical, Ben David Ba, that's when Mashiach is going to come. We just learned the Rashi, and then we'll stop here. This is a continuation, but we'll learn Shvua means the Shemitah, the 7-year period. Some people will be satisfied, some people will be in hunger. There's going to be, so to say, arrows of hunger, which is going to be, no one's going to be too satisfied. Why are they going to be forgetting their Torah? Because the scholars are not going to have what to eat. What does it mean that in the 6th year there's going to be sounds? There's going to be shmud, there's going to be people going to be talking about Mashiach. Lashon Acher, that's one thing. There's going to be sounds that Mashiach is coming. And by the way, next week we're going to learn that that's the challenge. The challenge is that even though they've had these periods in history before, but there was never real talk about Mashiach. Lashon Acher, another opinion is it's not that there's going to be koilis, but there's going to be koilis mitkis shofar. We're going to hear the sound of the shofar. Shenemer yitakah b'shofar gadol. Quotes the verse, the famous verse, that there's going to be the great blowing of the shofar. And it says, Melchamais, who's going to be the wars? This is not so simple. We're talking about the wars of Gog and Magog. The Jewish people are going to be at war. So doesn't this all, if one pays a little bit of attention about the description of this 7-year period, we could kind of figure that we're in this situation as we speak. Okay, he says like this: according to the tradition, the word Gog and Magog represents the suffering that will precede the event of the Mashiach, right? The Mashiach. It is described most clearly in Yecheskel, where it is written, "Son of man, set your face towards Gog, in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Mashiach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him." With regard to this topic of the great war that will precede the redemption, the prophet says, "Of whom I spoke in old times by my servant, the prophets of Israel, that prophesied in those days." In the prophets, there are explicit and indirect references to this great war, the war of Gog and Magog. One unique aspect of the war is that it will be a war not merely against Israel, but against God himself. Therefore, the war described in Psalms, where it states, "The kings of earth stand, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his Mashiach," is understood as a reference to the war of Gog and Magog. Okay. Koilis, he says, the Ramah says, some explain the reference is to the sound of thunder, where the source of that sound is unseen. But I think also, if you want to just say it simply, people are going to be talking about Mashiach, right? People are talking now about Mashiach like they never did. All right, Chaver, let's stop over here. They're going to continue. The Gemara is going to say, you know what, let's just do the last piece, because this finishes off this connection. Rabbi Yosef says, there were many sabbaticals that we've had, this kind of good years, bad years, learning Torah, not learning Torah. So Mashiach didn't come. Mashiach didn't come. Rabbi says to Rabbi Yosef, if you remember, Rabbi Yosef is his teacher. Did we have the 6th year of the voices, of the sounds of Mashiach? Did we have the battles of Mashiach? Also, there has to be the order. It's not just that in the 7-year period there'll be these things, but it has to be an order of these things. And that order we didn't have. He just says, we had many years that there was good hunger years and not hunger years. Mashiach didn't come. So Rabbi tells Rabbi Yosef, did we have anyone saying clearly, right? When's Mashiach coming? Did they actually announce that Mashiach is coming? This order of things, they say, has not happened. But when that order happens, Mashiach will come. Okay, and then the reason why Rabbi Steinsaltz quotes Asher is because some people take that out of the Gemara. I just want to finish off to say that a lot of this Gemara is also, they're going to go now to the Gemara of the days of Mashiach. A lot of this Gemara is also found in Gemorah Sanhedrin, and when he says it's one thing that it talks about the mamish things that we see today. It talks about the Galil being destroyed, right? I just sat with people from the city of Shlomi, what they're going through in Eretz Yisrael, and talks about the Golan. All these are things that are conversations today as we speak. And so let's hope Mir Hashem Taka that the sounds of Mashiach should come, and we should be Zaycha to the coming of Mashiach B'Kariv. Laila Tov, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Rabbi. Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. That right there enough? Here we go.